Nice. David, welcome to the Full Stack CEO podcast. I'm really excited actually to have you on this podcast just because, when I look at your career on paper, it looks like one of the best, careers, what people really dream of, starting at McKinsey, going out there in different companies, getting acquired and acquired and acquired. And, on paper, it looks amazing. And so the first question I really have to ask you is, has it been in the backstage as fulfilling as it looks on paper? Right? The real stuff, because people are gonna be like, "Oh, wow, David," but behind the scenes, has it been as fulfilling as people paint it out to be?
At a grand scale, yes, it has. I have done, I'm a firm believer that life is for just a period of time. I'm not a big believer in afterlives and everything else. And so
Hmm.
if you're lucky and you get 80, 90, 100 years on this planet, every day is an opportunity to make the most of that day.
Yeah.
And if you take on small challenges and do small things, then the aggregate of that after that 80, 90 years, is pretty small.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but if you take on the biggest challenges that you can find and strive to have as much possible impact on other people as you can have, then, every day and at the end of your life, you can look back and say, well, not everything worked. Not everything was easy.
Hmm.
But it was as it was we used to say back in the days, it was an e-ticket ride. Disneyland used to, when you bought an entrance to Disneyland, it wasn't like go stand in line forever and with everyone else. You got a
Yeah.
certain amount of tickets
Yeah.
for different rides, and the A rides were like the Dumbo ride and the carousel, and the e-ticket rides were the big roller coasters, the Matterhorn and everything. And I've always thought you ought to
Yeah.
make every day in your life an e-ticket ride.
Yeah, love that, love that. And so, piggybacking on that one, what have been the biggest challenges that you've gone after, right? I mean, I think your career speaks for itself. You've done a lot of different things at different times, pre-AI, post-AI, like just,
Yeah.
lots of things you're working on that you've done. What has been the biggest challenges that you've gone after personally?
Well, everybody likes to talk about, and I just did, so I'm guilty too, about how great it is to found companies, start companies, and grow companies.
Oh.
And the reality is, it's pretty brutal.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think that there's a tougher professional challenge out there
Hmm.
than starting something from nothing
Yep.
and trying to grow it and get people to follow and get investors to put money in and get
Mm-hmm.
customers to take the risk of buying an early stage product and
Hmm.
really growing a company.
Hmm.
Um, it can be pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And a big part of that brutalness is around the uncertainty.
Yeah.
You can be lucky and jump into a company that's a rocket ship from day one, and that happens every once in a while.
Yeah.
That's not the norm. The norm is that you start something and it's honestly years before
Hmm.
you find a signal, you find that product market fit, and then you can be sure you've got product market fit. And
Hmm.
all the while, you're wondering, am I just spending day after day these 100-hour weeks where I'm not making a lot of money
Yeah.
um, and I'm not getting a lot of traction? And I can see some progress, but I'm hitting as many walls or many more walls than I am hitting, fairways. And
Hmm.
you spend a lot of time wondering, am I just devoting my life to something that's never going to work? And by the
Yeah.
way, most
Oh.
people are telling you it's never going to work
Yeah.
because you're doing something new and nobody before has made it work.
Yeah.
So that uncertainty can be, to a lot of people, soul crushing.
Yeah.
And it's why this isn't a game for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like you've been a CEO multiple times over, looking through your career, seems like you've done this quite a lot. Exits, the whole thing, right? Curious to understand like what advice do you have actually, for CEOs starting out? Like, because like you mentioned, this is pretty serious, right? You have folks that and most of the listeners, for the full stack CEO community are, B2B SaaS founders, different stages. Some are at the pre-seed stage where they're really trying to get it, figure it out, get that first MVP out, get that first customer, really prove that you have something. And then you have others that are at the seed stage, they're between 1 to 5 million. Maybe they have go-to-market, they have traction now, but it's all over the place, and they're trying to go from founder-led to like a real repeatable business that takes you to Series A. And then you have some on the other side now that are at the Series A where they're in high growth. They got money in the bank. They have a team. They have pressure mounting now, but maybe their efficiency is not quite there yet. So you can see this. There's a range of people listening in the call, but in the end, they're all trying to build a business that they believe in. They're trying to do it in the fastest way, in the best way that they can. But there's so much coming at them. So for someone like you that has seen that, lived that multiple times over, been to hell and back. What advice do you really have if you're sitting right next to a CEO right now who's about to get in that journey? What are some of the key takeaways that you would like to share coming from where you're coming from?
Yeah. So, it aligns with stage just a little bit when you talk Series A, Series B, et cetera.
Yeah.
But I really think of a demarcation line of pre and post product market fit. And I don't think that's changing in the age of AI.
Yeah.
And, there's a bunch of stuff. I mean, I think Mark Andreessen was the one who first coined the term. And there's this great podcast that they have, which isn't on product market fit at all. It's on pricing. I think it's called pricing. But at the end, they start talking about product market fit. And one of the partners says, when you have product market fit, when you have no time other than to meet the demand banging on the door, and it's too much demand, and you just can't do anything else but try and meet that demand. And if that's not your situation, you don't have product market fit yet. You may have
Yeah.
product customer fit, maybe product to customer fit. And I've seen it. At Aktana, we struggled between 2011 and late 2014 to get product market fit. And then suddenly in early 2015, we were hiring before we had the capital to hire. We were struggling. There was really nothing. I mean, the demand coming in and the customers demanding that we give them product and support them was like suddenly through the roof. And that was
Yeah.
pre and product market fit. So the lessons pre-product market fit really are all around keeping the burn rate low until you find that product market fit.
Yeah.
You don't
I
know how
re-
long it's going to take.
yeah. I know. Go ahead. Sorry. I got a follow-up question, but I'll let you finish your point there.
Okay, so everything is around how to find that product market fit and how to last until you do. Okay, and you typically have a very small team and everybody feels committed to each other and to the mission, and the organizations typically work really well. It's just you don't know, and all that uncertainty is there, and all the fear that you may not find product market fit before you run out of capital. So it's,
Yeah.
my coaching would be, don't imagine because you have one great customer who loves you that you've got product market fit.
Yeah.
That's product customer fit. Keep the burn rate exceptionally low until you're certain you have product market fit.
Yeah.
And then once you do, the lessons completely change because it's all about the CEO job completely changes, in fact. And that's a tough transition for a lot of CEOs to make because it goes from less being the chief problem solver of trying to find that product market fit. And now your role is to build an organization to meet the demand and scale. And you can't be in every meeting any longer. You can't be in every customer pitch any longer. So now it's really about how do you let go, but how do you build an organization that allows you to let go?
Yeah, you touched on several points there. I wanna go really quickly on the burn rate. I think that one is something that is heavily overlooked, especially at the early stage of pre-seed to seed. I see it a lot. You have folks like, YC and so on. They say, hey, make sure you have like 12 months, in the bank before you even set out to go and do this thing. Others say, less, more, whatever. But curious to get your take, right? Because there's how much you have, how much run rate you have, and then there's the burn rate that you're managing along the way. So I'd like to get your understanding of kind of like when you're setting out, how do you make these decisions, right? First of all, in terms of like, are you even ready to launch a business? Because I think a lot of people sometimes are launching before they're ready, from a
Yeah.
capital standpoint, and then they find themselves, hitting a wall really quickly. So
So,
I'd love to get your take.
so my son is starting a company,
Mm,
and they think they have some fit. And he's got people coming at him saying, well, you should raise some money. Let me introduce you. And I've been coaching him not to raise the money yet. I, you know, th-
interesting.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of, I think, as a young person doing this, you
Mm-hmm.
think raising capital is success because then you're in the game. Now you've got a VC behind you. You've kind of made it.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that once you start taking capital, now you're accountable to people.
Yeah.
And before that, you were accountable to yourself. And you could afford to dabble in things, try things, miss things. Now, when you start missing things, you're running out of capital. And if you don't find product market fit before you run out of capital, you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a great platform to raise that next round.
Mm-hmm.
Because every
Yeah.
next round investor, every Series A investor is going to be looking and asking, well, what's the demonstration of product market fit? And so you always want, if you're going to raise capital, you want to get as much as you can to last you as long as you can to make sure that you don't run out of capital before you hit product market fit.
Yeah.
And so, how much you raise, I would say get as much as you can. And, you're going to get diluted, and that's the reality of it. But once you start raising capital, um, you have a tax on you, which is the
Yeah.
second round's going to look and see the first round and say, what have you done with that first round's capital? Have you found product market fit? And if you haven't, I'm not sure I want to invest. And
Yeah.
so you're kind of hitting a wall. So I
Yeah.
would say resist taking capital and get as much done as you can without it. When you
Yeah.
absolutely have to raise capital, raise as much as you can and spend as little as you can.
Yeah. 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 As a CEO, what have been your favorite metrics to look at to understand the health of the business? Right. And I understand that there are different stages where you're looking at top line growth, then there's stages where you're looking at the efficiency of the business and so on and so on. Curious to get like when you come in right here, you see a business pre-seed, seed, series A, just what do you look at right away that maybe someone is not really paying attention to as they're starting out?
Well, so again, pre-product market fit, it's all about how are they focused on learning. So how are they focused on testing hypotheses, testing product offerings, and it's less so testing does this technology work
Mm-hmm.
because that's somewhat definitive. You can figure out if something for most things you'll get it to work eventually. It's
Yeah.
really is the value proposition one that works in the marketplace. Testing hypotheses around that, and keeping an open mind, not getting too wedded to a particular vision
Mm.
before you really test it out and find because the odds are whatever your earliest vision is, it's not going to be right. There are aspects
Yeah.
of it that may be totally on. There's going to be aspects that aren't right, and you don't know that until it's hit the marketplace. And so
Yeah.
you want to get out there, and this is the whole kind of philosophy around lean startup and Eric Ries's thing is you want to get out there as quickly as you can to test your
Mm.
hypotheses and learn as much as you can. And when I encounter an early stage pre-market fit company that thinks they have fit and they're spending a lot of money on sales, it's a huge mistake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just not like spend only as much as you can to test those hypotheses, do the learning.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've got demonstrated product market fit, it's a totally different story. Then you start looking at metrics of, the long term customer value. Do you? And I worry less about CAC at that point because you're still figuring out your go-to-market, and it's going to be more
Yep.
expensive than what it ends up being.
Hmm.
But I do think about lifetime customer value quite a bit, and you look at for those first customers, are they buying more? Are they expanding? Those are
Yeah.
probably the most key metrics in the world.
Yeah. Very interesting. And what are some of the toughest calls you've had to make, right? As a founder, as a CEO, what are some of the tough calls that, people don't typically see on the front stage, but on the backstage, you've had to make those calls.
So I'll give you an example of one that we had at Aktana.
Mm.
And this was in 2014, right before the 2015 hitting product market fit. We were running out of capital. We'd had two customers that both had kind of disengaged. We never got the product launched at either customer. And these are big, top 20 pharma customers.
Yep.
And they bought the SaaS offering and never fully implemented it. And then the projects got killed.
Mm.
And we went to our investor and we said, look, we're running out of money. We've got no customers. If you've got no customers, you have no product. You may have some
Yeah.
technology, but you really don't have a product if nobody's using it. So no money, no customers, no product. And we were like, if
Yeah.
you want to pull the plug, that's okay. They expressed belief in us, but we told them, don't give us the capital yet. Hold on to it. Let us figure out what we're going to do differently. And we came back and we decided to kill our major offering and come back with a completely new thing that we thought based on our learnings would work. And sure enough, that's what worked and that's what took off.
Yeah.
We basically killed our product
Wow.
and the only product we had, if you could say it was a product.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, those are the tough calls. All right, we got a couple last minutes, so let me just make it quick. I guess one wrap up one really quickly is on the founders building in the age of AI. Obviously, that's a big topic. It's all over AI, AI, AI. It's a buzz. Creates a lot of opportunities, a lot of competition. It could get faster, messier, faster than before. I'm just curious, what advice do you give to founders building in this age, right? 2026, the state of the market and the tools that are available and the competition. Kind of like, what advice do you have? Is it business as usual? Just forget the
No.
noise, or have things fundamentally change and you have very specific things to share based on you building like 5 years ago, let's say, right? Very different outlook.
Yeah, well, everything has changed. I do think this is very different. First of all, it's really easy to build a software product. My son already has a software product, and it was just him and one buddy and part time, and they just vibe coded it, and it's up and it's being used already. And you don't need to hire a full engineering team anymore.
Yeah.
At least get that MVP out the door. So that is different, right? It's faster, it's cheaper, which means you can avoid raising capital. Again, back to one of my prior points, until you actually have something and can test it in the market for a while.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's different is it's much harder to create moats. And this is my big concern for everyone that's enamored with AI and starting an AI company is think very, very clearly before you dedicate years of your life to something as to how you're going to create a moat. Because if you can't create a moat, you're going to get commoditized right, left, and
Yeah.
center. And it's going to be really hard to make, a decent return for those years of your life.
Nice, nice. So with that, all right, you got a minute left. What are you doing now, and what inspired you to join Full Stack CEO?
So I'm off with a investment and operating firm that I've started with a buddy of mine, and the whole idea is to acquire service companies and transform them with agentic AI and really drive
Oh, wow.
EBITDA. So, less around building and creating tools than around using the tools that exist and tools that we would create for that specific service line. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity there. In terms of full stack, like it was kind of a natural for me. I've been advising CEOs for the past 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Again, when somebody takes on this journey, it's one of the hardest things they'll ever do. And I've just always really wanted to help people not make the same mistakes that I made. And believe me, despite what you see in my background, I have made
Yeah.
a ton of mistakes, and some of them have been pretty painful.
Nice, nice, nice. Really cool. Well, as we wrap up the call, what do you do to stay in the game, right? What I mean by that is more on a personal side because I see a pattern of a lot of CEOs burning out. And I just want to get your take. What have you done in the past to just kind of like stay sane, stay mentally healthy, endure? It's a long game, not a short sprint. Are there like, what's your sauce, in the background that you do to stay in it, stay healthy?
Well, look, my wife is in the exercise business, and I will tell you, the one data point with that, all the focus on longevity that exists these days, the single data point that correlates with living a usable and productive, happy, long life is exercise. And
Hmm.
so it's pretty simple: sleep and exercise.
Yeah.
And I'd say having good people in your life, like my
Yeah.
wife, kids. You know, if you have good people in your life and you stay healthy, you can run this game. If you start sacrificing people and health for the game,
Yeah.
um, you're going to burn out.
Yeah. You're gonna burn out. You're gonna burn out.
This
Cool.
is not sustainable.
Awesome.
And
Well,
it's a long game. I mean, you're going to
yeah.
have way more challenges than you think when you start to do this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great. Well, where can people find you and learn more about you? Is it LinkedIn? Do you have a website? What's
Yeah,
the best way for
yeah.
people to reach out to you?
LinkedIn's probably the best way, and it's got a link or a connection into the company that we're building. But reach out to me on LinkedIn or reach out to me through Full Stack.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, David. Looking forward to seeing you in the office hours, in the pitch deck reviews, in the sprints. I think our team, our founders, will have a lot to learn from someone like you.
Well, thank you, Yannick, and thanks for putting this whole thing together.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being part of it.
All
See you
right,
soon.
cheers.